This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Kent! Zach! Ready your breakfast and eat hearty, for tonight we dine in hell!
Wait. I just realized hell is actually closed due to the pandemic. We're going to have to get some takeout. I think it's not going to be open for a little while.
But get ready, because the lines will be long!
This is Baconsale.
Welcome to Baconsale. I'm Joel.
I'm scared, and I'm Kent.
I am worried, and I'm Zach.
And I use that word in context. Keep that in mind, kids.
It was.
Yeah, I was just proud
It was.
for a little bit. And then I'm like, dang it, he's using it in context.
It's in context.
Yes.
Well
Talk
done,
about
Joel.
the
That was
place. Thank you.
awesome.
Wow.
My throat is hurting.
You have the beard to go with it, too.
Oh, thank you.
So manly.
And the abs.
Yeah.
Under the shirt and the flab, there's some abs.
Hey, put the airbrush away.
But we'd like to thank you for listening to our last episode, our NES nostalgia, as we called it.
Yes.
We had a couple comments here I wanted to read. One from Todd Callan, who said, that episode brought back so many great memories. My brother bought the game Narc, which was probably the most violent NES game I've ever played. You go around and arrest or shoot junkies, avoid being hit by guys throwing syringes, and try to take down a drug lord.
Ew.
Gotta love old school Nintendo.
But like, it's all these pixelated whatevers, so...
Yeah.
you
Scott
don't really know.
McKay, Scott McKay, what's his...
We'll say Scott McKay.
Scott McKay. Fun show. Brought back some memories. Now I want to buy Rad Racer for some reason. Oh. We didn't even talk about Rad Racer.
Rad Racer doesn't hold up, by the way.
What?
I played it the other day.
Aw.
It doesn't hold up?
It's tough to play. That one, actually, it's better than Spy Hunter. Remember that game? Terrible.
I remember that.
But that
one.
was that show.
And then Ben Jones finally said, most of my hours went into blowing into the cartridge and trying to make the game work.
Accurate.
But to answer your question, which we asked, what is the game you put most of the time into? He said, Mario Bros. And Castlevania. I spent my time trying to conquer that where the most memorable and time consuming. So much fun.
Yeah, so good.
So thank you, Ben. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Todd. And thank you, everyone who listened to our last show. We really do appreciate it. Speaking of appreciation, we have patrons.
Yeah.
2 new patrons.
Yeah.
Nice.
Celebrate good times.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on.
Oh, God.
There's a party going on, right?
We have Kendall Eliason,
Oh, good old Kendall.
who's a new $3
Hey.
patron, and Alicia Toner. who's a
Okay.
new $3
Hey,
patron.
Alicia.
Welcome.
Thank you for being patrons. They now get access to extra Pacon bits that we do. In fact, we just did a Pacon bit that was released, and they heard that last week, where they got a sneak preview of a Bacon bit, and they got to hear a special surprise that we did for Kent.
Yeah. And you're going to hear the results of that surprise at some
we
future
won't.
date.
We hope not. And also, we have a new iTunes review I want to read.
Nice.
Sorry, I'm just talking a lot
big
here
week.
on the show. This one's from Christy Barbara, and she says, my Monday highlight. Love this show. I've just recently started listening, since quarantine really, and it's become one of the highlights of my week. I laugh out loud every episode. The energy between the guys, Kent, Joel, and Zach, is so entertaining. Perfect mix of family-friendly topics, pop culture references, wit, mostly educated opinions, Joel facts, Kent mocking, and Zach one-liners. This is my favorite.
Wait, I have no facts?
You're Kent mocking.
What is the mostly
I have facts, you have mocking, he has one-liners.
educated opinions? Is that
It's mostly in parentheses, mostly educated opinions.
That was almost too kind. That was like Russian bot friendly.
I like you, Christy Barbara. But we thank you for the review. If you have a chance, if you have some spare time,
Right.
Maybe
Which we do.
Go to iTunes and leave us a review. We love hearing from you, or just give us a rating too. We enjoy that as well. Just seeing it gives us more visibility to the iTunes community when you rate and review us.
Right.
So thank you for that. But that's not what we're talking about today. I'm going to shut up. Zach, what are we talking about?
War. Huh. Yeah. What is it good for?
Come on.
Baconsale episodes.
Right? Come on, right? I can say come on now.
No,
it's
that's
fine.
the wrong song.
No.
That's the wrong song.
Yeah, today, gentlemen, we are talking war movies.
War movies.
War movies.
Sounds a bit heavy.
War movies.
We're heavy guys.
Thanks,
I've been doing
quarantine.
Beachbody
been
on
eating
demand
a lot
lately.
of candy.
Yeah. Thank you for the candy.
No, we talked about this
Yes.
because we wanted to do an episode about war movies.
We talked about doing a war film list, and we didn't know exactly how to format it, but we are going with a topic that, in a very specific way, we're going to go back to our Mount Rushmore, where we create a national monument and a personal monument.
The last time we did this was episode 161, the Mount Rushmore of summer blockbusters, back in June of 2018.
Yes.
So 2 years ago. And we were trying to figure out, because what it is we're building a monument in our own backyard of our favorite war
a little
movies.
hill in the back.
And then we're going to
mini golf.
yeah, and then we're going to build a national monument that everyone can see that has to be agreed upon.
Right. That it's not just, oh, this is my favorite. It's like, this is the best representative version of what the topic is.
Right.
And so we're going with war movies, but not just, hey, there's like 250 war movies out there. We had to kind of break it into segments. So for this one, forget about World War I. Forget about World War II. Forget about these wars for a limited time only.
So uncomfortable.
Thank you for your service, veterans. We really do appreciate it. We'll never forget.
Forget about Greatest Generation real quick.
Oh, boy.
We're going with historical wars and everything surrounding the world wars because we may talk about that at a future date.
Yeah, we talked about saving that because we realized that the world wars, World War I and World War II,
There's so many movies.
and they
Yeah.
could be their own show. So we saved that for later. Right now, we're talking about everything from like pre-American wars all the way up to the war in Afghanistan. So everything surrounding that war, whether it
Yeah.
be in America or around
We're
the
talking
world.
about the bun right now.
Yeah.
Not the meat in the middle.
We're talking about Revolutionary War.
not
Guys,
that World War
just-
II meat.
The War
Stop.
of 1812, Mexican-American War,
my gosh.
American Civil War, Spanish-American War, Korean War, Vietnam War, Gulf War, like all those.
Wow.
Could be any of those.
But we only have like 8 choices between us, maybe.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to get there. But Zach, tell us, this is a show
Yeah.
where we decide kind of on the fly what the actual mountain's going to be.
Yes.
What the new Mount Rushmore
We're
for
going
war
to
movies
chisel
is
in
going to be.
stone, the monument to war movies.
And so Joel and I have to decide what best fits the category. Maybe is something that's not even my favorite or your favorite, but should be there.
Yes, it's the overall best choice to be up there.
If there's
so
one
that's why
thing-
you're going to have your personal choices as well.
if there's one thing I hope you've learned as a listener of Baconsale, I hope you've learned that I'm able to separate favorite from best.
And I'm not, because whatever I say is the best.
So I have my opinions that I'm going to be sharing, and hopefully Kent will agree with me because honestly, I feel like my national monument is the monument it should be. And you're going to have a
But
hard
are they
time-
your favorite?
Not all of them.
'Kay.
In fact, one I don't like.
See, I picked a couple I didn't like as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm interested.
But we're not there yet.
All right.
We're going to right now decide. We've got our... Oh, so there's the mountain. We're going to put the national on. But right now we've got plaster of Paris and some wood in the
I'm
backyard.
picturing like an anthill that I pour water on and I just craft little heads.
I'm picturing, people are getting bored. They want to drive around and see something in the neighborhood. I'm building something in my front yard. A monument to war movies.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah. I'll come and see it.
I'm not a craftsman, so this is going to be interesting.
They're going to look really cool.
Yeah.
All right, listener, let's get those little mini golf hills started. Joel, what's the first head represented on your personal monument?
Good morning, listener!
Wow. You're just yelling on the show. Is
my
that what
So
you're
much
doing?
yelling. Do you have a voice?
No, it actually is really hurting right now. I might have to take a break. I chose 1987's Good Morning Vietnam for one of my personal war movie monument entries.
This is actually one of your favorite war movies ever.
This is, well, yeah, one of my favorite war movies, not World War I or World War II.
There's a disclaimer
Caveat
too.
And so here's the synopsis. By the way, this is the Vietnam War, if you don't get that from the title. In 1965, an unorthodox and irreverent DJ named Adrian Cronauer, I can't ever say his name, begins to shake up things when he is assigned to the U.S. Armed Services radio station in Vietnam. This is directed by Barry Levinson, who did The Natural, Rain Man, Bandits, other movies I really enjoy. And it's starring Robin Williams and Forrest Whitaker, Bruno Kirby. I'm trying to think of other people who are in there. But it's the Robin Williams show.
It is.
And this was one that got a ton of love for being one of these great comedies. And so when I saw it, which was years after it came out, I was like, oh, fun comedy. Robin Williams, fun comedy. And it was for a while.
Yeah.
And then it takes a hard left into this.
It went full Patch Adams. Is that what you're saying?
No, it didn't go full Patch Adams.
Yeah.
'Cause Patch Adams became.
It's real dark.
Yes. This is more, it showed you kind of the horrors of war in a very personal and human level. They give you this character, Robin Williams, who you kind of just love. And then he gets put through this horrible experience in Vietnam. And suddenly you realize, wow, war really is complex. And there's kind of a different side to look at here.
Did you feel a theme between, and I don't know if you've watched a lot of war movies recently, but I've watched a lot of Vietnam War movies compared to maybe Revolutionary War or Civil War. And the Vietnam War, they're so grim.
Well, okay, so for
And, war movies should be grim, right? There's
Right.
always death and there's
But-
tragedy all around.
and I'm actually doing a study of this because there was this very much raw soldiers
Back then.
soldiers are good, enemies bad. That was the war movie for basically until the 70s.
Yes.
And even it was I think the Green Berets with John Wayne's the tipping point where all of a sudden the war movies start turning into, hey, war's We're kind of awful.
And it turns you into monsters, and specifically Americans.
Yeah. And so the Vietnam, you're absolutely right. Almost all the Vietnam War movies are very grim and very dark. And this one definitely has that side to it, too, but also has a humanity I enjoy. And this is actually based loosely on actual experiences of a guy named Adrian Cronauer, who went to Vietnam and was a radio DJ. And he said, look, I'm very happy with it, meaning the movie. Of course, it was never intended to be an accurate point-by-point biography. It was intended as a piece of entertainment, and Robin Williams was playing a character with my name, but he was just playing Robin Williams.
Okay.
So
he said it was like 45% accurate, and if he had done the things that Robin Williams did in the movie, he'd have been court-martialed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because, he does a lot of things in here where they keep telling him to cut it out, just being irreverent on the radio and stuff like that, and then breaking protocol. But I feel like this is a good, and I should clarify right at the beginning here, for all you historians out there,
Kyler.
We are not, hi Kyler, what's up? We are not putting these out here on a monument as these are the most historically accurate war movies.
No.
Because I fully acknowledge, I don't think I have a single one that is 100% accurate on any of my lists.
Are any of these accurate?
No.
Are any war movies 100% accurate based on who's in them? Like who's the main character, who drives the story? Because even then they're based on people, but I don't think there's like a romance that happens right at the same time. I honestly can't think of like one specific true story.
Even Zero Dark 30, which was, like I said in a couple episodes back, it's one where they actually said, did you leak information? Because it was very much accurate as to what happened. But the whole movie, there's obviously some fictionalized parts as well. So yeah, as much as my throat hurts, Good Morning Vietnam is on my monument because it kind of it showed me kind of a perspective on war that I did not really think about until that point in my life.
I'm glad you put out that disclaimer that these are not true stories, because most of my choices are super farcical. They are based around real battles,
right?
But the people themselves aren't generally real.
But see, I think that's fine because it gives you sort of a conduit into the story.
Right.
So
that's what you need. You need an everyman to bring you into the story.
A filmmaker is there to persuade an audience, and we will pay money to be persuaded.
Yeah.
And sometimes with actually true events, they're boring or there's poor pacing in real life.
Yeah.
So that's why we have movies like The Patriot from the year 2000.
You love The Patriot.
I love The Patriot. Benjamin Martin is the protagonist. Mel Gibson belongs
in a museum.
In a couple of museums, maybe on a few mountains. Other people, they don't care for Mel Gibson, but for what he has done for war epics,
in general.
Epics in general, but across like different wars as well. Because he's in a lot of war movies, some of which may come up in this show. But I want to singularly put Benjamin Martin on my mountain with his little revolutionary ponytail.
Oh, that's right. We're supposed to do what we chisel on there.
Yeah, you're obviously putting Robin Williams
with the microphone
at his
microphone in front of his face. Okay, so I have Mel Gibson's face, but he just has kind of a long wig. That's it.
Yeah.
So
a little Ichabod Crane ponytail thing.
And if you haven't seen the movie, peaceful farmer Benjamin Martin is driven to lead the colonial militia during the American Revolution when a sadistic British officer murders his son. This one's directed by Roland Emmerich, who I don't really care for as a director, but this is like his one good movie, I feel.
I was going to say, almost every director has at least one they can kind of go, yeah, there you go.
And this one has the score by John Williams, which is also surprising and really, really good.
Heath Ledger's in this one.
Yeah, Heath Ledger, a young Heath Ledger. And this movie is a straight-up tragedy.
Yeah.
It's barbaric. Like,
it's
in
heartbreaking.
some scenes,
heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. This is one of those we talked about a couple seasons ago. Definitely made me
we were
cry.
talking on the cry episode with the girl running up. Oh my gosh, I just realized that my heart started hurting.
Boy.
Don't cry, Joel. Don't cry.
I was looking at some trivia on this one, and Heath Ledger from Australia, he said he's researching the American Revolutionary War, planning for this role. And he said, I always wondered why Americans wave their flag so high, because we're often seen as very prideful people. And so he's like, why do they wave their flag so high? Why are they so proud? And he says it's because they went to hell and back to build their country, in context. Do you like that?
It's the context.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like granted, is this movie true? There was a Revolutionary War. There was a Battle of Cowpens, which is one of the battles here, and a Battle of Camden. But Benjamin Martin was actually based on General Francis Marion, known as the Swamp Fox, and combination of a guy named Andrew Pickens. Basically, people that either their family has been killed, their estate was torched, and they led the militia against the British Army. The villain in this one, Jason Isaacs, plays this amazing.
Which if you don't know,
I would almost put him on the mountain because he is like the character in the movie.
Yeah, he's Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter.
And this is the role where I first saw him, and when I saw him as Lucius Malfoy, I was scared because of the role he plays here. It is so evil, but he does it so well. Yeah, this movie, it gets me. I know it's like more action adventure type than most war movies.
I think I need to give this one another shot because I didn't like it the first time I saw it.
Have you only seen it one time?
I think like 1.5. Like
Try it out. It's so dramatized that you'll be maybe a little put off.
Yeah.
Because you watch a movie like 1917, you're like, oh my gosh, the realism. Then you watch a movie like this, you're like, oh, that's
But that's
soap
what
opera.
it is. That's what it is. You accept it for what it is.
Yeah, but I love this movie. So Mel Gibson belongs on the mountain with this movie in particular.
Okay.
No tri-corner hat, though.
Oh, yep.
Okay, very good.
That's
Now
what I
he's
meant.
in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not just the wig.
Okay, good. Joel?
Next up, I'm going to go...
So first off, you've already put on Robin Williams with
Robin
the
Williams.
microphone. What's
Yeah.
next on your
And
monument?
next to Robin Williams, there is going to be... Well, let's just stay on the Mel Gibson train.
Oh, okay.
I'm putting Braveheart on my personal
Good.
monument.
Ooh.
I was hoping you would.
I really, 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 really like Braveheart. It's one of those movies that it's super long. Like it's 170 minutes, almost 3 hours long. And yet I remember watching this multiple times. I had 2 VHS tapes that I watched this on.
Yeah, it was on 2.
So you had to plug in the one and then plug in the other one. By the way, this is from the First War of Scottish Independence in 1296 to 1328. What it's based on, I should say. The synopsis is, when his secret bride is executed for assaulting an English soldier who tried to assault her, William Wallace begins a revolt against King Edward I of England. Starring Mel Gibson, directed by Mel Gibson, and a lot of Mel Gibson.
A lot of Mel Gibson in
Can
this
you
movie.
give that a synopsis again, but with a Scottish accent?
We'll get a Scottish later. Rated R for brutal medieval warfare, language, sex, and nudity. But you can find it on ClearPlay DVD and streaming and VidAngel as well. If
If
want
you're
that.
Scottish, you're proud about saying that.
But this is one came out in 1995, and it was. I mean, it did well at the box office.
It revitalized epics.
It did really well. But
Yeah.
here's the thing: it's the score. Everyone owned the score.
Mercy,
to this
the score
movie.
is so good. James Horner
good.
was
So
inspired.
well done. Now, is it historically accurate? No,
No, not at all.
not at all.
It's about as historically accurate as most of these movies we're going to mention.
Sure.
Maybe less so.
Really? Because people go so hard on this movie and The Patriot. I think it's because it's the Anglophobia they're worried about, because both of these movies are against the Brits.
For example, just one of the major things, they didn't wear kilts.
No, not for like 500 years.
One historian said one of the errors is that they said they wore the belted plaid by Wallace and his men. And in that period, no Scots wore belted plaids, let alone kilts of any kind. She compared it to a film about a colonial America showing the colonial men wearing 20th century business suits, but with the jackets worn back to front instead of the right way around. Like it's just the way they wear it and what they're wearing, both wrong. Also, bagpipes had not been introduced to Scotland at this point. And like there's a part where Isabella and Braveheart, William Wallace, when they kind of enjoy each other's company.
Sure.
Yeah, she was basically 3-year-olds and living in France when William Wallace was around.
Oh.
So they had no real interaction. And she was not married to Edward II until he was already king. And Edward III was born 7 years after William Wallace died. Spoiler alert.
But William Wallace did exist.
He did exist. And this is all based on a poem by Blind Harry called The Acts and Deeds of the Ilstre and Valiant Companion Sir William Wallace.
Oh, boy.
But even his poem is not historically accurate. And then Mel Gibson took it a step away from that as well.
Yeah.
This was nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 5: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography, and Best Makeup and Best Sound Effects Editing. Brad Pitt was originally supposed to be William Wallace.
Well, the character is supposed to be in his 20s.
Yeah, and he was not. Well, it's funny.
I'm glad he wasn't.
So
Mel Gibson was perfect for this.
Mel Gibson, it worked out well, very well. But Mel Gibson actually, he wanted to do this project, and they said, "We'll do it." This was Warner Brothers said, "Hey, we'll fund your movie if you agree to do another Lethal Weapon sequel."
Really?
And he said no, because this was between Lethal Weapon 3 in 1992 and between Lethal Weapon 4 in 1998.
Oh, and he regrets 4 for sure.
He probably does. But he actually ended up getting funding elsewhere, and he cut corners. Like, for example, to lower costs, he had the same extras dress up in some scenes to portray both armies. So like they film on one ridge as the Scottish people, then they all change the other clothes, get on the other ridge, and yell at themselves, which is kind of cool to think about.
They also filmed the movie mostly in Ireland.
They did. It's true.
That's so racist. One thing I found out about this movie is the Battle of Stirling in the movie is actually known as the Battle of Stirling Bridge. And the real battle is cooler than what they show in the movie.
Really?
Which the movie is so cool, though.
It is so cool, but it's a field battle.
Yeah.
The British come across this bridge, and all the Scots are hiding in the trees.
Yeah.
And just kill them a few at a time. And then the ones that try to swim away drown because their armor's too heavy.
Oh, man, it's crazy.
Like, I wish that was shown in the movie.
I bet
But
you do.
it's a great choice.
Kent's like, more blood, more drowning. But yeah, this is one that I connected to emotionally. Like I've said a couple times, this is a guy's chick flick.
Yeah.
You talk to any dad out there, any middle-aged man out there about Braveheart, and they'll get that tear in their eye and just be like, yes, I remember Braveheart. So yeah, that's on my personal monument.
Amazing.
Right next to Robin Williams.
Okay.
So painted face on the mountain.
Yeah.
Very good.
The half blue face, yeah.
So I'm going to stay with Mel Gibson and go, We Were Soldiers. No, I'm not. I'm not at all.
I was like, wow.
I just feel like he's in 9 war movies.
Yeah.
Save it for the Mel Gibson show.
I'm going to go with, this is kind of a wild card, but it feels so right
Tell me.
and wrong at the same time. King Leonidas from 300. Yes, Joel?
Kent, I have that on mine as well.
You do? Really?
I do.
Faraway finger boop?
6 feet finger boop.
I feel like this is the most historically accurate depiction
What
of
is
a
it?
war
You're right.
in our movie.
Okay.
In our list.
No, it really is. So let's talk about the actual reality of this movie. Oh, by the way.
Bring it back, yeah.
King Leonidas of Sparta and a force of 300 men fight the Persians at Thermopylae in 480 BC.
This is based on the Battle of Thermopylae within the Persian Wars around 480 BC.
But here's what they got right. They got Leonidas basically right because he was a punk back in the day. The inaccuracies here is the king before Xerxes, which is like a demon god in the movie. Because this is based off of Frank Miller's graphic novel, which is based on a 300
movie.
Spartans movie in 1962, which is based on this historical event.
And who brought this one to life?
Zack Snyder.
Well, there we go.
Who did Dawn of the Dead, Watchmen, and Soul Asylum, Somebody to Love, or Somebody to Shove music video.
Gahool.
That's all you're going to say? So the reality of this one, the real story is there's a king named Darius who preceded Xerxes. Xerxes? We'll say Xerxes.
Sure.
And so he went to like Athens and Sparta for their surrender, and all of his messengers were actually tossed into pits and wells, just like in the movie. Like that was an embellishment, but granted, that was like 20, 30 years before this movie's meant to take place.
Right.
And so when Xerxes took over, he went down there and he said, okay, Leonidas, all your countrymen have basically surrendered. It's time for you to, he's like, lay down your arms. And he said, Molon Labi, which is, and he yelled it obviously, which is, come and take them. So Leonidas was just this tough guy.
Yeah.
And then they overemphasize that in the movie where he's drinking all the rock stars in the world.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, he's become such an icon, too. Like, Leonidas, I mean, more than just a GIF. Like, you see him all around there. But, like, that image of just King Leonidas.
Him
like,
screaming.
The way he talks. My intro to this show is based on his performance because it's so iconic.
Which is why I think his face on our hills should just be his open mouth screaming, this is Sparta.
You're putting his face on there? I'm putting his abs.
Joel's putting abs on the mountain.
It's just abs.
I love that so much.
It's Robin Williams' face, Braveheart, and then abs.
So I saw this movie in the theaters 2006, and this was when I was like wanted to watch weird, stylish movies. This movie should have never worked because it's all filmed on green screen in a studio.
Yeah, blue
And
screen back then.
Yeah, and somehow it really did work. Granted, about 6 months after everyone saw it, they went, oh, 300, okay, that's kind of trash. I think now it's like post-trash. For me,
It's
now
getting a
I feel like
resurgence?
it's kind of like a resurgence. Like it's actually kind of fun to watch for the styles
Well,
alone.
so I rented this one. Actually, this is one of the ones when Cleanflix was around. I was like, yeah, I've wanted to see 300, sure.
Yes.
And it was amazing how much violence they left in, first of all, for an edited movie, quote unquote. But it was like glamorized violence. I shouldn't say glamorized. That's not the right word. Stylized. Because there's
It's
a part,
it's
for
mostly
example,
fake blood.
Yeah, well, it's like cartoonish.
Yes.
And it's all kind of fake looking. And there's like a part when a guy swings a sword and you just see a head kind of go, just spin across, like in a beautiful arc across a beautiful sky.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this movie? But I have not, like, it's really, I haven't stopped thinking about it since then. Just like when I see other movies, I'm like, that kind of
It
looks
may
like
be
300.
like the most memorable war movie next to Braveheart, possibly.
Possibly. Yeah.
Especially when you in a modern, more modern context. The things that this movie did were visually, especially, were just really amazing.
Yes.
They did some things with speed ramping where it would go slow and then fast and then slow.
Yeah.
With the slow motion, I honestly perfection in slow
well
motion.
done.
So many times.
Kicking off the cliff.
Kicking off the
There's-
cliff.
So good.
There's Sparta.
Fighting in the shade. So
And
many
the
cool
music.
things.
The music
Yeah.
is so anachronistic. But it's so cool. And once again, I want to emphasize we are not going for accuracy. We are going for personal preference mountains.
Once again, by the way, there was a Battle of Thermopylae, and it was cutting off at this cliff pass. But there were more than 300 people. There were 300 bodyguards for Leonidas in this, but there were probably near about 1,500. Well, 7,000 that started.
Right.
But the ones that died at the end that got trapped, about 1,500 people.
Yeah. And this is one where, but it's all about military strategy, though.
Yes.
Like, I like the idea of like their numbers are so much more than ours. Let's limit their advantage by making them go through this narrow pass. It's like a smart thing to do. And I was like, that's brilliant.
And of our war movies we mentioned here, this one probably has the most battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so. By the way, the post-production lasted for a year and was handled by a total of 10 special effects companies. They put a lot of work into making this look unique, and it really works.
Yeah.
I think the look of it, you don't expect it to be historically accurate.
No.
Because it feels so stylized. So you put the sort of realism out the window. It's just not necessary.
Yeah, it's like they put this filter on us. You're automatically going, okay, they're not trying to be real here. They're trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And it worked.
I remember seeing the trailer for this prior to a movie that I was seeing. And the first thing I said aloud in the theater was,
Abs.
that looks stupid.
Oh.
And then I saw the movie. This was actually my first big boy movie that I saw in the theater. And
Wait, what?
It was
2006.
It was my first R-rated movie I saw.
He was 16.
What?
I'm young, but I loved it. I thought it was so well done.
Everyone remembers their first R-rated movie.
Yeah, well, in theaters.
There we go.
I did want to bring this up too. Speaking of the score, Tyler Bates did it. But apparently there was striking similarities to other works by other artists to the point where the studio had to come out with a statement saying a number of the music cues for the Score 300 were, without our knowledge or participation, derived from the music composed by Academy Award-winning composer Elliot Goldenhall for the motion picture Titus.
Oh.
He ripped off music from the other show, and to the point where I think they had
Wow.
to settle after that. They amicably resolved the matter. It says.
Because that's what composers do. They'll actually use other music to kind of inspire them.
They put on a scratch track or something like that,
Yeah.
so they could see what it would look
They
like.
call them temp tracks, and they're actually used for storyboard and editing too.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's the studios who won't ever take the blame, but it's the studios who are saying, "We like this just as it is. Make the music fit," and they basically just
Right.
rewrite that same music.
Yeah.
Even Hans Zimmer does that.
to his own music.
I think it was was it Danny Elfman? I can't remember who said. I saw an interview where they said, "I don't like directors listening to scratch tracks, and that's all they want to hear, and they
Yeah.
want me to write someone else's music."
That makes sense.
Yeah. This is also the film debut of one Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, it was.
That's right.
Yeah, it's his first movie.
And it
Overrated.
catapulted Gerard Butler into stardom.
I know. P.S. I
remember-
love you, right?
After that.
My mind was blown though when I realized that the Phantom of the Opera was the same guy as King Leonidas in 300.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. Yeah, and he was not good in Phantom of the Opera. That was
I've
poor
never
casting.
felt right about my abs ever since.
No.
Body issues.
They're airbrushed. They're airbrushed, I promise.
They're not. They're not.
They are.
They kind of are, but he spent
still are.
4 months in the gym.
Oh, I believe they were all ripped and then airbrushed.
I spent 4 months outside a gym at the Wendy's outside the gym. Does that count?
I sat next to a guy
There's an
named
ab.
Jim once.
Yeah.
One ab.
There's one ab for that.
My first job was at a place called Abs. Closest I ever got.
You worked at a place called Abs?
I did. It was a burger place.
That seems counterintuitive.
Right?
Indeed.
But I would rather do that than exercise.
So, Joel, you're saying that one of yours was also 300.
Yes. So I pounced on yours, so we'll go right back to you.
Yeah, so
Okay,
let's go
so
to
go
me
you,
on this
Kent.
one.
This is your third.
I had a definite choice until I rewatched it today, and it wasn't as much about the war as it was training. And my I'm going to throw an honorable mention out there. Is that okay? Okay.
Sure.
Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai.
Oh.
I really, really enjoy this movie. It's beautiful,
It is kind of boring.
but it is kind of boring. And there's really only he is a Civil War captain, and there's only a battle at the end of the movie. So I'm like, I'm going to scratch that.
But like we said, it doesn't have to be battle. It's strictly on
Right.
the battlefield. As long as the war is a prominent presence or character in the movie,
Yes.
we can include it.
Did you say you watched this?
Today.
Do you watch it today? Does it hold up?
Yeah.
Like culturally
You watched Last Samurai
speaking?
today, or your choice?
It actually holds up better than the. Okay, we're going to talk about Last Samurai real quick, which isn't my choice.
Ah.
The title, The Last Samurai, and having Tom Cruise on the poster, this would never get made today.
Yeah.
But the movie.
You mean The Great Wall?
Right.
Starring Matt Damon?
But the movie itself is actually really sensitive because The Last Samurai doesn't mean Tom Cruise.
No.
It means the people he's with. And he actually learns from them. He's like re-educated into their culture. And it's actually very, very sensitive
just like James
about the
Bond,
topic.
you only live twice.
I guess it is.
No.
Hey, I love that one. Your Last Samurai is plural then.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Samurai is plural for samurai.
My choice is Kingdom of Heaven. So this
I
is
knew you were gonna pick that.
2005. I
Yeah,
think?
The director's
2005.
cut, right? Is what you're
The
saying?
director's cut.
Because I
So-
still haven't seen, because you and Jacob have been singing your praises for years now.
And in fact, I discovered this one because of Jake, because in 2005, I saw the Ridley Scott movie with Orlando Bloom.
And it was
I
terrible.
Like, oh, pretty boy playing in the Crusades. Right? And so his name is Balian of Ibelin.
That was actually my band's name in college.
Balian of Ibelin?
No, Pretty Boy playing in the Crusades.
What kind of music did you guys play?
Chimes.
Just chimes. A whole chime band.
Yeah, they loved
chime
us.
on.
Old ladies loved us.
They loved us?
Yeah, old ladies and dogs loved us.
Oh, they are pretty.
So he travels to Jerusalem during the Crusades of the 12th century, and there he finds himself as the defender of the city and its people. So I'm going back to the Crusades on this one. And this movie, I think it has probably in the 30s on Rotten Tomatoes originally.
It's not well regarded, and I think it's bad.
So have you seen the director's
But
cut?
I haven't. No.
So watch the Snyder cut because it is so good.
He's doing everything these days.
The Ridley cut. Huh?
Snyder just means director now. I don't know if you knew that. Sorry, movie bloggers. That's the way it's going to be. Actually, so let me give you a little bit of backstory before I talk about the real Crusades and who these characters were. There's an executive who is the worst executive of all time. His name is Tom Rothman. He once ran Fox.
That's my uncle.
I'm so sorry. And now he runs Sony. For some reason, he keeps getting jobs. And what he has done, Joel, I'll start with this. He canceled Firefly when he worked for Fox.
What?
Burn him! Burn my uncle!
He rushed X-Men 3 into production and made them kill off actors who didn't have the schedules planned.
James Marsden.
He forced a tone change for X-Men Origins Wolverine, basically ruined that. He said Titanic and Avatar would fail and wanted them to.
Cool.
Also, he changed the tone of Daredevil and said no one would believe Galactus or Sentinels. People don't like big robots, so don't put them in Fantastic Four or X-Men movies. And now he's over the Spider-Man franchise, which is a little worrisome. And I say this
How
because
does this guy still have a job?
I don't know. Ridley Scott came to the studio, and he said, I have this movie about the Crusades. It's 194 minutes. And the studio said, cut out 45 minutes. Well, you got a movie. And he's like, please no. In fact, he's disavowed the theatrical cut because you watch the theatrical cut and it's jumbled.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. And it's not a good movie. And then you watch the long one. And yeah, it's over 3 hours. But watch the long version. It's actually a tier 1 war movie.
We've said this before on Baconsale. A lot of people scoff at any movie that's, over 2 hours.
Yes.
And then they'll binge watch a whole season of The Office. And they're like, cool with that. And I'm like, it's the same basic principle. It's just time you're willing to invest in a story.
Yeah.
The problem is people don't feel like they can pause between or skip it to credits or something like that. But don't be afraid. A lot of these movies we're talking about are going to be long. Don't be afraid of long movies as long as they're well told.
Well, this is an investment. If you are okay with war movies, and by the way, the battle scenes in this movie are incredibly epic.
Okay.
And, when people say epic now, it holds no weight. Nobody cares about the word
Literally epic.
Because it's like, I got a burger the other day. It was epic.
It was from Wendy's.
It's like really got its head cut off and it was spinning across the screen.
It's a weird Wendy's.
Speed ramp and snap zoom.
But it's a weird Wendy's. But these movies are meant to be epic. That is why they were created. It is a genre.
The war epic, even the romantic epic, anytime you put epic in a movie, it basically means large and spanning through time.
Yes.
Or large in scale. And so it's going to be long. It's going to be big. That's what the whole point of these movies are.
So the accuracy of this movie is there were crusades, and there were a lot of crusaders who went over to defend Jerusalem, except for they basically pull a Braveheart when the main character has a relationship with the queen-to-be. Which never happened in real life. And
of course.
Even this guy did exist, Balian of Ibelin, but he wasn't all that significant. He was just in the army.
Yeah.
But this is a fantastic movie. Somehow Orlando Bloom pulls it off. So definitely watch it if you have the time.
Which one of the characters ends up guarding the Holy Grail waiting for Indiana Jones?
Oh, yeah. That is
Simon Templar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Choose wisely.
Belmont. Yeah.
All right. So your third is, who are you putting on the, is Orlando Bloom?
Orlando Bloom. Yes.
Is he doing that
Or,
face on the
or
cover?
Eva Green, because she's in the movie too. And I mean,
No, don't put Eva Green in your personal money. That's just weird.
Eva Green
is it? Is it?
I know, you'll make
abs.
it weird.
You're putting abs on your mountain.
They're going to be tasteful.
That's a very different
Tasteful
personal
abs?
monument.
Tasteful abs.
Tasty.
No. Yes.
All right, Joel.
What happened?
Joel, let's finish up your personal monument with your fourth choice.
All right, I'm going to bring the room down a bit. Because I wanted to throw in a wild card here because I feel like, and this is just me.
Leonidas was not a wild card?
No, this is a little wilder. Because I feel like for just me, I'm very focused on kind of American-centric or Eurocentric wars.
Okay.
And so I wanted to get outside of that and put something on there that represented a war outside of that, my point of view here. And so I actually picked 2004's Hotel Rwanda.
Oh, wow.
Interesting choice.
So this was one, this is based on the Rwandan Civil War, which was 1990 to 1994. There's two groups of people here, the Hutus and the Tutsis. And they're a warring, like, they weren't tribes. I think this is a civilized kind of thing going on here. Mm-hmm. But then the Hutus felt that the Tutsis were kind of taking over and they were the cause for all their problems. So they started this genocide of this people. Now, I found about this in college. We actually read about this whole true story, and then we watched the movie. And I had like this kind of eye-opening experience of just like, oh my gosh, like they had this horrible, brutal civil war happening in this country, and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
By the way, the synopsis, I'm not going to say his name right. Paul Rusesabagina was a hotel manager who housed over 1,000 Tutsi refugees during their struggle against the Hutu militia in Rwanda. And this is rated PG-13 for violence, disturbing images, and brief, strong language. It stars Don Cheadle as the main character, as Paul. And it came out in 2005. But it really is, it's heartbreaking. The civil war that happens, just because these two sides don't agree, the ones that are kind of, there were the Hutu people that were 85% of the population, and Tutsis were like 14% of the population. And they just started persecuting them and killing a lot of them. And then Paul, the hotel owner, he owned this kind of like upscale hotel.
It's like a sanctuary.
Yeah, it was called the Hotel de Mille. It's French. Hotel de Mille Collines. Nope, I screwed that up.
You said his name right.
I did, Paul.
Yes.
So then what he did is he started kind of like these people that needed help started coming to his hotel, and he hid them. And then more people came in and he hid them, and he was bribing people to keep these people safe inside this hotel. And it being about 1,200 people that he saved. This is like refugees from overburdened refugee camp, the Red Cross, various orphanages. They were just piling people in there. And sadly, over 1 million people died during this civil war, during this genocide, as they called it. And it's horrible to watch. It is heartbreaking. I can't believe I didn't remember this one when I was thinking about the movies that made us cry in that episode. And yet this movie just was so powerful that I thought I need to put that on my personal monument as well, because it did kind of made me realize that war and strife isn't limited to like the great powerful nation, because Rwanda is a tiny country in Africa, and yet something so horrible happened there. There's war happened there that it kind of just made me realize
it sometimes takes a movie to make you realize what's actually happening out there.
Exactly. And once again, not 100% historically accurate. In fact, there's some people that dispute the claims that are being made in this movie. But
you're saying 300 is more accurate than Hotel Rwanda. Okay.
I don't know.
It's slow motion.
So it's going it's going to be John Cheadle's face on there. Yeah, just as playing Paul. Like, just keep that one respectful. We'll do the abs on Leonidas.
This is actually a movie that originally was given an R rating, but the producers appealed, and it was actubut brought to a PG-13 without any editing or changes made.
So serious content, maybe children in peril.
Well, because but there's this horrifying scene. I don't know if I want to get into it, Baconsale. It's pretty dark.
I haven't seen the movie.
Well, okay, so basically, I'm sorry. Children may not want to hear this part. I'm not going to get explicit, but there's a part when they're driving in this dense fog and they're trying to get to this other place, and the road gets really rough. And he's like, "We're off road. You've gone off the trail. We need to get back on the trail." And so he gets out of the car and realizes that, no, they're on the trail, but there are bodies littering the road.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most horrifying moments in the movie for me, when I was like, there's just so many people dead. So many people killed senselessly. So it's not an action movie. This isn't one that, you're going to eat popcorn while you're enjoying watching the cool action sequences. But it's a civil war that is horrifying.
Is this the most depressing one on your list? On both lists? Is it?
Yeah. Let's say yes.
Okay.
Close to, if not.
Yeah. After each of these movies, you may need to watch something happy, because these rarely end well.
Yeah. So there you go. Mine's Hotel Rwanda. There's my monument.
Woo! That's a heavy monument.
Yeah.
At least you got abs on there.
Abs.
So my fourth one is Maximus Decimus Meridius from Gladiator from the year 2000.
Okay.
If you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. But a former Roman general sets out to exact vengeance against the corrupt emperor who murdered his family and sent him into slavery. Once again, another Ridley Scott movie. I hate to do it, but he's so good at this kind of stuff.
You love Ridley Scott.
Half and half.
Marry Ridley Scott.
Boy, he has
I
high
want to marry
highs
half
and
of
low
You
lows.
want
Ridley
him
Scott.
to do the Snyder cut.
Oh, his lows are low.
His lows are
But
really
his highs
low.
are high.
Yes. So starring Russell Crowe, the role that made him just launch into superstardom, Joaquin Phoenix and Connie Nielsen, among others. This one was nominated for 11 Oscars, won Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Costume Design, Best Sound, and Best Visual Effects. This one not only has a great hero, but a great villain in Commodus.
And Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is so
And his thumbs.
awful in his thumbs.
The Roger Ebert
Oh,
thumbs.
it's up or down. I was
Yeah.
like, does he have toe thumbs?
Yeah, no.
Joaquin Phoenix has toe thumbs.
Don't spread that rumor.
It's now on Wikipedia.
He'll find us.
Oh, no.
You saw Joker, right?
I stopped drinking milk.
He'll
It's
stop
fine.
talking about milk. Milk finger.
And so milk finger.
Milk thumb.
Joaquin Phoenix has milk thumbs.
This is another one, Kent, where I feel like I need to give another shot because I didn't like
I
it.
always wondered why you do it, because we talked about this on previous shows.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gladiator is that kind of movie. I would even say it's on the level of Braveheart as far as war.
And I
epics
felt
go.
it was a poor imitation of Braveheart when I
Yeah, you
first
said
saw
that,
it.
and I've never
Same with the
understood why.
Patriot. I don't know why I put Braveheart on this
Patriot, I
pedestal,
understand.
on this monument even.
Yes.
And then these other two movies came along and I'm like, you're good, but no, wait, when did Patriot come out?
2000.
And then this
Patriot,
came out in 2000. These are probably both black hole movies too.
Yeah, they were.
So meaning I wasn't in the country when they came out.
Yeah. But the story is definitely not accurate. I mean, there is Marcus Aurelius, and he had a son named Commodus, but there's a whole murder plot there which didn't exist. Maximus didn't exist at all.
Which war is this though?
This is the Germanic Wars. So this is Rome basically growing its empire. So the movie begins with that battle, which is so much fun to watch. And the soundtrack, once again, like Braveheart,
This is a great soundtrack, hands
is
down.
so compelling. And so it starts off with that war, and then Marcus Aurelius is like, hey, we won. Maximus says, can I go home? He says, no, I want you to be the guardian of Rome. Commodus isn't too happy. He's sent into slavery. And what happens then? It becomes a gladiator movie, much like we've seen in many movies in Hollywood's history. Some even, maybe even bigger than this.
Right.
Yeah, Maximus is such a great hero. Everything about this is beautiful. Even the first time I saw the ending, I was like, oh, dang it. But it really is a beautiful experience.
Okay. So there are personal monuments. Once again, my personal monument was Good Morning Vietnam, 300, Hotel Rwanda, and Braveheart, of course.
Represented by.
Represented by, it's going to be Rumbles with the Microphone, Abs, Don Cheadle's face, and then Mel Gibson's face.
Yeah, mine is Mel Gibson's face, Benjamin Martin. We have King Leonidas from 300. We have Balian from Kingdom of Heaven, and Maximus from Gladiator.
I probably should say William Wallace and not Mel Gibson.
Yeah, it's William Wallace.
Yeah.
They actually made a William Wallace statue in Scotland, and people hated it. So they were like attacking it, like attack with a hammer and stuff like that. So then they had to put a cage around the monument each night. It's a stone monument. And people were like, that's stupid. It makes it look like he's imprisoned.
Yeah,
So they had to
which
have to
defeats the
remove it.
purpose.
Yeah, they ended up getting rid of it.
All right, so we're going on to national. Those are personal favorites.
That brings us to your personal. So there was maybe some scrutiny, maybe some agreement.
Yeah.
But now there's going to be a little bit of a debate because I need you gentlemen to convince me what is going to go on that national monument.
Okay.
And if you have some agreement, don't be afraid to give each other a little pat on the back and say you did a good job, but let's see what you got.
I'll go first.
Please do.
I am Spartacus from
Okay.
1960. Spartacus, starring Kirk Douglas,
It's a good choice.
directed by Stanley Kubrick.
But what war?
What war? It's actually the Third Servile War, is what it's called.
You did the research too.
Yeah, I didn't write it down. I'm like, wait, what was that? Yeah,
I think you're right.
I feel like I was in school all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Homeschool.
73 to 71 BC.
And so the slave Spartacus leads a violent revolt against the decadent Roman Republic. This also stars Laurence Olivier, Tony Curtis, and Peter Ustinov. And in this movie, like, it's actually a really sweet movie. There's like a romance in it, which feels like an old Hollywood love story kind of thrown in the middle there. And then also some gladiator games. And of course, the big cursed battles that happened at the end. This is not a happy-go-lucky sort of movie.
Most of these aren't.
Yeah. This one isn't as downtrodden as Hotel Rwanda. I feel like that's the new bar.
That's the new sad bar.
Yeah. But this one, I think it is the most well-known look of Kirk Douglas.
What about him and
Iconic.
Oscar?
20,000 leagues,
about,
man.
What about him and Oscar? But even that scene where everyone stands up for him, they say, we will let you all live if you tell us where Spartacus is. And he's sitting right there front row. And then he's about to stand up and say, take me. And everyone says, I'm Spartacus.
I'm Zorro. Oh, wait. No, different movie.
Yeah. I'm Spartacus. And it's an emotional scene. And Kirk Douglas is crying there. And you're like, that's good stuff right
It's
there.
a good movie. This is one that got talked up to me a lot. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to be that good. And I watched it. I'm like, nah, it's actually pretty good.
It's a very long movie, much like
long.
these all are. And I feel like it deserves a spot because it's number 81 on AFI. That's the American Film Institute, their top 100 film list of all time. He was ranked number 22 on the AFI Heroes and Villains list. And I just feel like that chiseled chin needs to be on the national monument, a giant chiseled face of
be
Kirk
good
Douglas,
chiseled there.
Hollywood legend. And he's in so many great movies, a lot of World War II films. But for Spartacus, I think that's where he deserves to be.
This is a Stanley Kubrick movie,
Yeah.
and he hates this movie.
He doesn't hate it.
well, he's dead. So
He hates all his movies.
Yeah.
He actually said I was watching an interview that Spielberg gave, and he said, Kubrick and I have talked a lot because he was a name dropper.
Yeah.
Kubrick and I have talked a lot about Spartacus, and he doesn't like it as much because he feels like it's too studio influenced.
Okay.
And he goes, but there are some scenes of dialogue in that movie that are just unforgettable.
Yeah. Well, that's true. This is like one of those movies that I think probably the only ones that Kubrick made that he had any limiting factors.
Yeah, because then he started to go really weird about 10 years after
We'll
this.
save it for
Spartacus.
So good.
that thing you do.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Joel, what's your submission?
Well, I'm going to the Civil War this time, gentlemen, with a movie I feel like captures the heart of the Civil War. It's Wild Wild West.
I'm in. I like this movie more than most.
no.
So Mount Rushmore has spider legs.
Yes, exactly.
Big spider
half
legs.
of what's his name? I can't
Kevin
remember his
Branagh.
name. Yes, Kevin Branagh.
Don't
thank
you just hate that song?
Did you just quote Wild Wild West?
I like it more than most.
But that's not what I picked. I actually picked Glory, 1989.
wow.
Robert Gould Shaw leads the U.S. Civil War's first all-black volunteer company, fighting prejudices from both his own Union Army and the Confederates. This is directed by Edward Zick, who did Legends of the Fall and The Last Samurai. And this one, like I said, Matthew Broderick is kind of the colonel who's put in charge of this regiment of these all-black soldiers. But then you get like Denzel Washington and Andre Brower, Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine in it, and Morgan Freeman.
When you say Denzel's the star of the show,
you
He's
putting
the,
Denzel on
he's
there?
the stand-up performance. But what I see it as kind of the regiment, like kind of all together, like one of those monuments of them.
you get one face.
No,
Choose a face.
I got
One
a flying saucer destroying a White House last time.
You did? For the summer movie one?
Yeah,
Those are Jake rules. You get one face, Joel.
You get one face.
that's probably gonna be Denzel. then.
Yeah, it's got to be Denzel.
Because I don't really
That's
want
the
Matthew
right answer.
Broderick on the
That's
thing.
my mustachioed Matthew
Weird
Broderick.
Well, and this thing is like my experience with Matthew Broderick was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then I saw him in this, and I'm like, that's not Ferris Bueller. This one actually didn't fare very well at the box office. Budget was $18 million, and it made $27 million.
That's it?
Yeah, but this became one that I think it grew in popularity because schools were showing it. I remember being in school and having to have my parents sign a permission slip saying I could watch this movie because it was R-rated because of war violence.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of heartbreaking to watch this movie because if you don't know, the battle does not go well at the end.
Right.
It's this amazing, amazing show of bravery for these people who were basically kicked around like they were nothing. And yet they fought for our country and were able to kind of, at least distract the enemy for a little bit. But this is one of those movies that kind of had a big impact on me. When I think of war movies, I almost always think of this one.
Once again, great score.
Oh, amazing score.
Yeah.
And this one, by the way, has the unique distinction of having the same exact Rotten Tomato score on both audience and critic score, 93%. So both audience and critics agree Glory should be on the monument.
Rotten Tomatoes didn't exist back then.
Yeah, when this movie was made, the people didn't exist.
People didn't exist.
The people that did the war didn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. So, Zach, we're going to go through 8 of these options, by the way.
Yeah.
And you can really justify your answers. Like, I don't know if you want us to go through all 8 and then you pick the 4.
You can
or if
immediately
you want
green light them, or you can put a pin in them.
Because I honestly would say, based on these 2 choices, both are great.
If I had to pick between these two, I will say I'm leaning more toward Glory just because of I think that for our history and growing up and my personal influence, I think it kind of speaks to that a little bit more. Than Spartacus.
It's a story of a civil war between North and the South, and also a racial war.
But if I
between
may,
whites and blacks.
1960, those couple decades, 60s and 70s, war movies were huge.
Huge.
War epics were huge.
Yep.
And so Spartacus is one of those that
Did
does
find a way to
stand out.
Yep, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
All right.
So what's your next one, Kent?
My next one, we've mentioned it before, so I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but it belongs there because, like I said, it revitalized war epics. It's William Wallace. I believe William Wallace's face, which is why I chose Benjamin Martin for my personal one, because William Wallace's face deserves to be on a national monument. Inaccuracies aside, this movie is just so gosh darn entertaining.
So good.
And it makes you emotional, and it makes you hate the bad guys, root for the good guys. Like, it is such a Hollywoodized version, but it does its job in spades.
So well. That's why it's also on my national monument. I put it in both.
So we can totally agree on that.
This should be a green light.
I absolutely was going
Okay.
to say it's going on there.
So
for sure.
it's lifting the kilt and mooning? Is that what's on the
it's
monument?
neither one of those.
I would say Mel Gibson's face with blue stripe makeup, or at least you can see
Absolutely.
the contour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that should be on the monument. We both
Given-
agree. That's
Also-
Also,
National
this
monument.
was in theaters for a year. And I know back then, like in the 90s, that was when there started to be about 4 to 5 months of release, and then it started to go down after that. But a solid year. This is a phenomenon.
because people get going to see it.
It's a really it's a classic.
My next one, this is the only carryover that I have for my personal mountain. Just because I know Joel will disagree because you don't like it very much, but I do believe that Maximus deserves to be on there with the mask that he wore from Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
It's a cool image.
It's a cool movie. Everything about it, him turning his back on the Emperor. That one, like I said, it was a great time, that 5-year span from Braveheart to Gladiator. Like, these movies come in 2-packs because they're like, these are movies you need in your house. These are basically, when you buy a home, you get those 2 movies on DVD, but not Blu-ray. Like, they belong there. They deserve to be seen by everyone. This is what should be watched by every student who watches Glory at that point. I wonder if they still watch movies like that in school now.
I don't know.
Or if they're maybe a little too insensitive because they were made at a time when there wasn't a lot of political correctness.
I don't know.
But this is a great story. And granted, I know I have Spartacus. And that is, I'll play my hand here. I think Spartacus kind of set the precedent for the Swords and Sandals epic, but Maximus perfected it.
Ben-Hur would like to have a word with you.
Boom.
Listen, biblical epic. We're saving that for another show.
Okay.
Save our biblical epic
We've
show.
talked about that before, actually. But I would say, like, having those 2 side by side would be great. But yeah, I would say maybe Spartacus over Maximus, but I would like them both on the National Monument because both movies are just so dang good.
Okay.
Joel?
I do like Gladiator.
All right. I know Vietnam War movies are kind of grim, but I decided to pick one
Here
for
we
the
go.
monument because I felt
You
like it
went
was
with
deserved.
2
Joel,
Vietnam War movies.
In my
pick
personal
MASH.
and the national.
You can't pick MASH.
No, I'm actually going
won't.
to pick Kong Skull
Vietnam.
Island.
Well, you're going to put Brie Larson there, right?
Yes, holding a camera. No, I chose. This is a movie I don't like that much, but I respect its filmmaking. I'm choosing Apocalypse Now.
I also chose Apocalypse Now.
Did you?
Totally.
And,
good.
and it's a good choice.
It should be on there, and I think it should be Colonel Kurtz's
So you
face.
don't like this movie?
No. Well, I shouldn't say don't like it. I don't love it because I watch it and I'm like, wow, that was really crazy and drug trippy, but it's
the
a
synopsis
craft.
is, and this, by the way, this movie's in 3 parts, and we'll explain that. But a U.S. Army officer serving in Vietnam is tasked with assassinating a renegade special forces colonel who sees himself as a god.
Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who did Peggy Sue Got Married and Captain EO.
Don't say that.
That's true.
It's true.
It's absolutely true. And The Godfather and The Godfather about doing the Godfather thing.
The cast in this one is amazing. We have Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall, and Dennis Hopper in this one.
Lawrence
so you
Fishburne,
say,
Harrison Ford.
yeah, you say Kurtz should be on the mountain.
I think
Brando.
Kurtz. I think Marlon Brando Kurtz, like with his bald head, like sweat coming down. The horror.
I think it should either be. See, now we're going to argue about whose face should be on it.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen coming out of the mud,
That's a good thing.
or Robert Duvall in this movie for the 7 minutes he's there. Him just standing there as
Kilgore.
bombs are
Love
going
the
off.
smell of napalm in the morning.
Him wearing that straight brim hat. It's such a great character.
There's
He
some
doesn't flinch when bombs are going off.
There's striking imagery in this movie.
Okay, so in this filmmaking, they were really napalming sections of the jungle.
What a time. We just CG now in all these movies.
Really
Yeah.
slaughtered a water buffalo on screen.
Wait, that was real?
That was real.
I was actually horrified because
This-
I watched this the other night again.
Oh, God.
And I was like, was that fake? Please bless.
No,
That's fake.
The water buffalo was slaughtered with a machete for the climactic scene in a ritual performed by a local tribe. And the Humane Society gave this a unapproved rating.
It's a
whatever
horrible, horrible thing to see.
It is.
But thematically, it fits with the assassination attempt. That's all I'm going to say.
And this is loosely based on the 1899 novella Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad.
Weird.
Which I enjoyed the novella.
You did not.
I did.
You've read that
Yes,
and enjoyed that
I
unironically.
did. But the
it's
thing
one of
is-
the hardest books I've ever read.
It's not an easy read, but
Right.
it's one of those where I really kind of got into it. And watching this, I see where the structure is, but they definitely stray from that formula.
It's crazy that they pulled that really dark story and made that about Vietnam.
Well,
Like, it really does.
It was
fit.
about it was 19th century Congo, and they pulled that over to Vietnam, and it worked.
So this movie is in 3 parts, like I said. The first 45 minutes, and by the way, watch the 2.5-hour version, not the 3.5-hour version.
Well,
Redux.
So they had the theatrical release,
Yes.
and then they released the really long version, and then they like in 2019, I think it was, they cut it back. Was it 2019? April 2019.
Yeah.
The final cut, the 40th anniversary one. That's the one that's like you probably should see.
Yeah. So first 45 minutes, you have Vietnam War, and it feels more real than anything. Like, it is the best depiction, best visual depiction of the Vietnam War. I wasn't there, but it feels so grim. And then all of a sudden, it's a river journey in the middle third.
Yep.
And then for the final part, it is this strange part where we have this weird despot
Can I say something though?
Sure.
I feel like this film would have been better had everyone on the set not been high.
Because everyone was high.
There's stories.
There's actually a documentary about this, and it's called Heart of Darkness.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about how the production was just troubled, whether it be from a typhoon coming in and wrecking all their sets to Marlon Brando just not showing up and not being there, and then showing up and being insanely overweight from when they shot before. And Martin Sheen getting drunk and breaking his hand on a mirror. Like, there's so many different
Having
things.
a heart attack.
Yeah, having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to slow down production, so he just kept going. It was like a cursed set. But I feel like the storytelling, like they could have shaved off easily a lot more time off this. But they have these weird kind of psychedelic sequences. And I'm like, that's because someone behind the camera was high. And they could have tightened it up a bit more, I feel.
Sure, but they created a beautiful but awful movie.
Yeah,
And only awful meaning it's hard to watch.
I respect the filmmaking.
Yes.
I'm just not, it's not ones I elevate as like, this is amazing and I love it.
But here's the question: Martin Sheen in the Mud or Marlon Brando?
I think Martin Sheen in the Mud is only cool if you actually have it rising, like if the statue's actually going up and down from the mud.
Or if
have
it's
him
partially
chin
in
up.
there.
It's chin up.
It's
Then he's going to be
chin
like
up
a
in the
foot
mud.
below everyone else.
Yeah, because
Or half below everyone else.
kind of like on Mount Rushmore, how who's hidden on the hold on,
come on,
who's
kid.
hidden?
Yeah.
It is
Because they had to go recess it a bit.
Yeah, I think if you do it, if you do the head in the mud,
Yeah.
it would go.
yeah, it's
It
the
would
head in
look
the
cool.
mud for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
It's
abs could be on a
Roosevelt,
mountain,
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, of course it's Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Why is he on there? I'm questioning the real
nation's
Mount Rushmore.
forefathers?
Maybe we should have a show about creating an actual Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, but look at Kurtz. Look at Colonel Kurtz. Look at Marlon Brando's Colonel Kurtz. And
Who
tell me
wants
that
Marlon
he's-
Brando's face on there?
His bald head is on the poster.
Superman does.
No, he was barely in Superman. Christopher Reeve hated him in Superman.
All right, so we both agree Apocalypse
Yeah, it's
Now goes
Apocalypse
on.
Now.
So far we have Braveheart and Apocalypse
Braveheart and
Now are
Apocalypse
cemented
Now
in. They're
are for
chiseled
sure.
Yes.
on there.
I'm tapping away right now.
And then on the docket, what do we have on the docket?
So there's Spartacus. So Kirk Douglas and Spartacus, Denzel in Glory, and then Maximus Decimus Meridius from Gladiator. And then that's whatever you have next, Joel. At this point, Kent, you have made your pitch for what the National would look like.
Correct.
So
I'm just want to hear Joel's last pick.
one more, Joel.
I chose one based in the Iraq War. I wanted to go a little more modern.
Okay.
I chose Iron Man. That was on
You
the summer blockbuster. I want it back here. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Triggered.
It definitely has Iraq War and stuff at the beginning, though. Anyway, no.
Iron Man helmet.
When you think of war epics, gentlemen, you are not going to find a better pick for this monument than Gone with the Wind, 1939. The whole movie has the backdrop of the Civil War, and it is one of those movies where the Civil War is an ever-present presence in the entire movie. I remember there's one scene where Scarlett's walking out into this field, and you see kind of an injured soldier, and then it pans up and you see more injured soldiers, and it pans up, you see even more. It's an amazing, it's a mind-boggling amount of extras, honestly, because they did not have CGI back then, and they're all kind of moaning and groaning, and they're all injured. Because this takes place in the South, in Georgia.
I think it was filmed in real time.
Yeah,
It was just so
Ken's
freaking
complaining
long.
about long movies. You want to talk about a Snyder
This is
cut?
the longest movie on the list.
This is 238 minutes if you get it with overture, intermission, entr'acte, and exit music.
Mercy.
And this is directed by Victor Fleming, he just got done with The Wizard of Oz. In fact, he was still working on The Wizard of Oz when he started working on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one that has an MPA rating of passed, because PASSED, because there was no.
Oh, it's like you're in
ratings back
school
then.
and you're like
This is
kind of mediocre and you get a
1939.
passing grade.
Yeah.
The synopsis, by the way: a manipulative woman and a roguish man conduct a turbulent romance during the American Civil War and Reconstruction periods. Starring Vivien Leigh, Clark Gable, and a bunch of people you probably don't remember. This movie, by the way, had a budget of $3.85 million back then, which is about $71 million now, which is not a lot for a movie.
not.
But it made 100 times its money back.
It's insane.
So, differing accounts, it made $390 million at the box office. But if you adjust that for inflation, some places say that's $3.4 billion.
Yeah.
Some people say that's $7 billion. If you think about it, the highest grossing movie right now, Avengers, is like 2.7. So it still has not surpassed this movie, even adjusted for inflation.
Do you know
Or
what
not
else?
adjusted for-
Do you know what other movie made 100 times back its budget?
What?
Insidious. This is basically the Insidious of war
But this
movies.
is literally the highest grossing movie of all time, adjusted for inflation. No movie beats this one.
I wonder if you ask people on the street, though, like, what time period, like, what is happening around the events where Clark Gable meets Scarlett O'Hara? the actor and the character, and people wouldn't know.
They would know. This whole thing is a Civil War epic.
You would know. Would
it's
people
a
know?
Civil War epic. It's an amazing
Does
film.
it actually bring attention to that based on maybe when you saw this 25 years ago? Like, do you remember?
I actually saw this for the first time when my wife and I were dating because it was her DVD and she let me borrow it, and I watched it for the first time, and I brought it back and I was like, that was really good, and then we kissed.
Whoa! It's almost like you had an agenda.
No, but I like this movie. I really do like this movie, and it is such an amazing film when you go back and watch it. Now, the whole point is like they're the Confederates, and their lives keep getting erupted by the Civil War. People keep having to go to war. Some people come back.
And Scarlett's
some people
the worst.
Scarlett is the worst. I don't know if people realize how terrible she is. I just hit my nose on my microphone because of how bad she is. The actress, no. Vivian Leigh is really good in it, but the character is just, received 10 Academy Awards, and it won a bunch as well. And it won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actress.
Did you say spleen play?
Spleen play. It's better than a screenplay because they write it with their spleens.
Aw.
Ouch.
This is, it's been placed at the top 10 of American Film Institute's The 100 American Films. This is one of those films that is so iconic, and it revolves around the Civil War and shows a very human side to people affected by that war on the South, which is an unusual point of view.
It's true. If you were to pick one Civil War movie to represent On the Mountain, Glory, or Gone with the Wind.
And this is what you
That's
both
Zach's
have done.
choice,
You both
not
have done
mine.
this to me, Joel. You are presenting.
I have Swords and Sandals.
You
and
are
he has
presenting Civil War, and you're presenting Swords and Sandals. So I think, I like what you're saying. I think if we're making, by the way, who are you putting on the mountain? Clark Gable.
It's going to be Clark Gable cradling Scarlett. And they're going to have like
This mountain is
one
too
face.
crazy. What is wrong with
It's
your
a
mountain?
It's a half a face and a half a
So
face.
you're
It equals
giving
a
me
whole face.
two
You're
half
the
faces or an
craftsman.
entire regimen.
The person building your mountain will never finish.
Guys, I just want to say this, that the 60 million ticket sales when this came out, which was equivalent to just under half the population at the time. Half the population went to go see this movie.
What else did they have to do?
What other movie was there?
And it was in theaters for like a year.
Wizard of Oz?
I think you're great, Joel, and I've really enjoyed our time here.
You don't like Gone with the Wind?
No.
What?
No, because I don't think it's representative of a war movie. Everything else we've talked about, you're going to say, you want to look up at a mountain, and it's got William Wallace and King Leonidas and Clark Gable.
Yes.
Come on.
Because
The
it revolves
mustache,
around
though.
the Civil War is like oppressing the relationship.
No way.
I feel good about Denzel.
Denzel is a great choice. Denzel is a fantastic choice, and Glory is a wonderful movie.
Okay, I'm sorry I picked a movie before 1970. For
I
you
know.
guys.
None of mine are. Well, one of them are.
You're going to go to bat for a 1960 movie, though.
Yeah. So, have you picked then? Are you picking of Joel's choices?
I think of the four available to me, which once again are Denzel's face in Glory, Clark Gable's face from Gone with the Wind, Kirk Douglas's face from Spartacus, and what's his name?
Maximus.
What, Maximus Decimus
even
Meridius?
know.
What's his
Didn't
name?
even know.
Russell Crowe.
There's been a lot of names thrown out.
Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Of those choices, my easy
Zach,
pick
you're making
from
the
there,
final picks.
My easy pick from there is Glory. I think it's a fantastic pick.
Yes.
I think it's got to go on the wall.
Okay.
The
I'm fine with
monument,
that.
The mountain.
And I will take your Glory, and I will tell you that it's not Gone with the Wind either. So it brings it down to Spartacus and Gladiator.
None of us mentioned Hawkeye from Last of the Mohicans. Another great score. Another great movie.
Really?
Great score.
What?
That was from the French and Indian War, by the way. You know my feelings on Last Mohicans. Great score. I had that for great score, mediocre movie.
Oh, wow. Hurts my heart.
Wow.
There's a heart here. There is now.
There is. You've
They
grown
announced the
one since-
Snyder Cut.
So much goodwill now that they've
Indeed.
announced this. What are you going to do with your time?
All right, Zach.
So it's down to Spartacus and Gladiator. I think you could argue that you wouldn't have a Gladiator without Spartacus, but I would much rather have Gladiator. It's
Can
a
I make a
perfect movie.
case?
It's a perfect movie.
Can I make a case?
Tell me why I shouldn't pick a perfect movie.
There wouldn't be Gladiator without Spartacus.
You're right.
I do think that the chin needs to be on that mountain.
Kirk Douglas is so handsome.
And Gladiator was not taken directly from the story, but the whole slave becoming a hero story and tragedy happening was the Spartacus story. And also what everything else that influenced. There's a TV show.
Spartacus, Blood and Sand on Stars.
And also there's been several theatrical re-releases. This is classic Hollywood. And I think Kirk Douglas...
Like Gone with the Wind? Classic Hollywood?
Yeah, that was good too. It just didn't make it. So I think to represent Gone with the Wind and Swords and Sandals epics, I'm saying Spartacus. But these are both my choices. It's fine.
Okay. You make a strong case. Kirk Douglas has a great chin. He'll look good on the wall. let's go with Spartacus. I am Spartacus.
We're going to Spartacus.
I'm going to take Spartacus.
So can you read the national monument?
The
now, please?
national monument, then. The official Baconsale
The one that we're building.
National monument.
For war movies.
For war movies.
That are not World War movies.
Representing Braveheart, the painted face of William Wallace.
The face, right? The face.
The face. Mm-hmm. Representing Apocalypse Now, Martin Sheen ascending from the mud. Representing Glory, Denzel just looking handsome.
Yeah, with a little cap on.
Oh, yeah.
And representing Spartacus, the chiseled chin of Kirk Douglas.
Just the chin.
Just the chin.
What a horrific sight.
I've got just abs on my personal one, then we got just a chin.
Put that together. It's a weird transformer.
It is. Wow. So there you go. That is our national monument of war movies that are not World War movies.
Yes.
Let us know if you agree with that.
Also, and yeah, tell us which ones we may have left off. There's a lot of honorable mentions that we did not mention at all.
I sent Zach a list of like 20 movies.
Yeah, it was a long
just
list.
like, hey,
Like what else, for example?
other ones I brought up was like, I did say Last Mohicans, Dances with Wolves, The Deer Hunter, Forrest Gump I put on there, Black Hawk Down, The Hurt Locker, American Sniper, Brothers, Lone Survivor, Thank You for Your Service. Like a lot of these movies, the more recent ones, I didn't include a lot of more recent ones. I think it's because they haven't maybe stood the test of time yet.
No, yeah.
But
And
there's
there's
still
a, sort of
some
a
older
raw
movies there.
feeling, too, because it does feel so recent and it's sort of sensitive.
Yeah.
It's a bit sensitive. But I would like to ask for the listeners' help at this point. There's a lot of World War II movies.
A lot of World War II movies.
And
World War One.
I haven't seen a lot of the greats. I really haven't. I watched a ton this past week.
Yeah.
Not in preparation for this show, just because I felt like it was a total dad moment.
Yep.
And
You're
I
wearing
did
your
feel-
white sneakers and shorts and
Inside.
barbecuing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mow that lawn.
Yeah, I mowed the lawn as well. But I need picks for your favorite World War I and II movies.
Yeah.
Please send those over to us because we may do another show like this for actual World War movies.
And it may be soon. But before we go, we'd like to give some love to our patrons, specifically the I Am the Listener tier, which includes Adrian Gray, Stephen Ross, Terry Finley, Braden Winterton, Chris Trout, Colton Cook, Jennifer Kukowski, Sean Sanquist, Just Kyler now, and Alicia Bass. Also, we'd like to give some love to the Bacon Council, which includes Nicole D. Hale, Chris Anderson, Ryan Farron, and crew congrats to Jacob on the Chalupa Twins Dutler.
Okay.
There you go. And reverse listener as well. Thank you so much for being patrons, and thank you so much for listening to Baconsale, all of you out there. But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter, or you can find me performing with Quickwits. They've been doing online shows at Facebook on their Facebook page, but you can also look forward to shows coming once again to the Midville Performing Arts Theater soon.
If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. And if you want to read my movie reviews, it's ShowtimeShowdown.com.
If you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Tumbling Mustard. So feel free to tweet at me. But most importantly, make sure you're following Baconsale on social media. That's at Baconsale on Instagram, Twitter, and like the Baconsale Facebook page. And while you're at it, go ahead and get yourself some Baconsale merchandise as well. You can get yourself a t-shirt that's, all three of the Baconsale boys flying on Falcor. So I'd get that at tpublic.com/baconsale. And then if you want to support the show, we'd so appreciate it. If you want to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/baconsale, where you can become a patron. Starting at just $3 a month, you can get access to special Bacon Bits. We had a pretty fun one this week talking about, I don't know.
Batwoman?
Really fun.
Super fun. But then there's also bonus content such as having Joel's kids review movies, which has been a fun video series that's going on there. Once again, that's patreon.com/baconsale.
So until next time, now that you've listened to this episode of Baconsale, feel free to comment on this episode when we post it. Don't comment, and you'll live, at least for a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here to this episode and tell Baconsale that they may have chosen their favorites, but they didn't choose your favorites?
Speed ramp and snap zoom.
And I use that word in context.
Sounds a bit heavy.
War movies.
We're heavy guys.
Forget about World War I. Forget about World War II. Forget about these wars. For a limited time only.
So uncomfortable.
Thank you for your service, veterans. We really do appreciate it. We'll never forget.
Forget about Greatest Generation real quick.
Oh boy. Sour Patch watermelon are far superior to Sour Patch Kids.
They are.
I know. I mean, why is that?
Sour Patch Kids were invented to give you canker sores,
It's the same stuff on the outside.
but it's not. There's like something better with the taste, and I don't understand what
But
it
if they
is.
put the watermelon flavoring in the Sour Patch Kids, would it taste as good as that? Or is
It's-
it the thickness as
I
well?
think it's the shape of the kids. They're meant to cut up your tongue.
that's
Watermelons,
Crunch.
they're basically fruit. You're basically eating fruit.
They should make a Sour Patch Kid Captain Crunch cereal, and your mouth would just explode.
just blood pouring, internal bleeding.
Just a constant war in your mouth.
Ain't no listen back, girl.
I'm able to separate favorite from best.
And I'm not, because whatever I say is the best. Doing full Patch Adams.
Don't cry, Joel. Don't cry. More blood, more drowning.
Sparta.
You're putting his face on there? I'm putting his abs.
Joel's putting abs on the mountain.
It's just abs. I spent 4 months outside a gym at the Wendy's outside the gym. Does that count?
Chime on.
Old ladies loved
They
us.
loved us?
Yeah, old ladies and dogs loved us.
So watch the Snyder Cut, because it is so good.
Burn him! Burn my uncle!
It's like really got its head cut off and it was spinning across the screen.
It's a weird Wendy's. No, don't put Eva Green in your personal money. That's just weird.
Eva Green
Is it?
I know you'll make it
abs.
weird.
You're putting abs on your mountain.
They're going to be tasteful.
That's a very different
Tasteful
personal
abs?
monument.
Tasteful abs.
Tasty.
No. Yes.
At least you got abs on there.
Abs.
Joaquin Phoenix has toe thumbs.
Don't spread that rumor.
It's now on Wikipedia.
He'll find us.
Don't you just hate that song?
Did you just quote Wild Wild West?
I like it more than most.
Those are Jake rules. When you buy a home, you get those two movies on DVD, but not Blu-ray.
I just hit my nose on my microphone because of how bad she is.
Hurts my heart.
Wow.
There's a heart here. There is now.
There is. You've
They
grown
announced the
since-
Snyder Cut.
The Civil War is like oppressing the relationship. No.
Denzel just looking handsome.
Also, our butts are that good in real life.